There is a kind of exhaustion that sleep cannot fix. It is not physical tiredness, not the kind that comes from work or long days. It is something deeper, something harder to name. It is the fatigue of existing itself, of waking up and doing everything all over again, of being aware, of simply being here. If you have ever felt this way, this video is for you. And if you want to understand your own mind a little more deeply, you can stay here and subscribe to this channel. Some people feel this and don't know how to talk about it, because it isn't exactly depression, even though it may look like it from the outside. It isn't quite hopelessness either, even though it feels close. It is more like a quiet, persistent exhaustion with life itself, with repetition, with effort, with the constant requirement to keep being a person. And what makes it confusing is this: these are not always people who hate their lives. They might have a stable job, a loving family, a comfortable situation. On paper, everything looks fine. But inside, there is a silent weight that never really goes away, as if existence itself has become too heavy to carry. In psychology, this is often described as existential exhaustion. It is not the fatigue that comes from what you do, but from the fact that you are. Every day, you wake up, take care of your body, eat, move, speak, make decisions, solve problems, process emotions, and then you sleep, only to repeat it again the next day. For most people, this happens automatically. They don't question it. They live through habits and distractions. But for some, there comes a moment of awareness, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The repetition becomes suffocating. It can begin in the smallest moment, like standing in front of a mirror while brushing your teeth and suddenly realizing that you have done this thousands of times and will do it thousands more. And once that thought appears, it doesn't really leave. People who feel this way often describe life as a role they never chose. They move through their days like actors following a script they don't believe in. They smile when expected, respond when spoken to, show up where they are supposed to be. But inside, there is nothing but a quiet, persistent fatigue, a sense of going through the motions while feeling completely disconnected from any real meaning. Research connects this state to something called anhedonia, the reduced ability to feel pleasure. But it is more specific than that. It is not that nothing feels good. It is that nothing feels worth the effort anymore. Even the things that once brought joy begin to feel like obligations, like tasks you must complete just to maintain the appearance of a normal life. And that is where the real exhaustion begins, not just existing, but performing existence, pretending to care, pretending to want a future you cannot even imagine anymore. There is also something called depersonalization, a state where you feel detached from yourself, as if you are watching your life from the outside. Many people who are tired of existing experience this. Days pass, but they don't feel real. Everything seems distant, muted, as if there is a layer of glass between them and the world. They can see life happening, but they cannot fully feel it. And trying to reconnect, trying to care, trying to feel something real again, becomes exhausting in itself. This feeling rarely comes from one single cause. It is usually an accumulation. Years of trying, years of disappointment, years of hoping things would change and watching them stay the same. Sometimes it comes from small, repeated emotional wounds, moments where you slowly realize that the world does not always respond to your pain, that no one is coming to rescue you, and that you have to carry yourself alone. And carrying yourself alone is heavy. Sometimes it comes from awareness, from seeing too clearly how the world works, the randomness, the unfairness, the systems that don't make sense. When you see how arbitrary everything can be, it becomes difficult to keep playing along. It becomes difficult to invest energy into a game that no longer feels meaningful. And sometimes it is biological. Brain chemistry shifts, neurotransmitters change, and suddenly, existence itself feels heavier for reasons you cannot fully explain or control. What makes this even more isolating is that it is hard to talk about. If you say that you are tired of existing, people often misunderstand. They assume something extreme. They panic. But this is not necessarily about wanting to end life. It is about being exhausted from maintaining it. There is a difference between wanting to escape life and wanting relief from the weight of it. Most people in this state do not want to disappear. They just want rest, real rest. Not just sleep, but a break from trying, from performing, from holding everything together. So they stay quiet, they keep functioning, they do what is expected, and from the outside, everything seems normal. But inside, they are carrying something invisible. Every morning becomes a negotiation, questioning whether they have to do this again. And then slowly, heavily, they convince themselves to get up, not because they want to, but because stopping doesn't feel like an option either. Every interaction takes energy they don't have. Small talk feels impossible. Being asked how they are feels like a question they cannot answer honestly. So they say they are fine, and that small lie costs more energy than anyone realizes. Even basic things begin to feel overwhelming. Eating, replying to messages, taking care of yourself. Everything requires effort, and there is no energy left to give. From the outside, it can look like laziness or lack of motivation. But this is not weakness. This is what happens when someone has been carrying too much for too long without real rest. The human mind is not designed to constantly perform, constantly function, constantly be okay. We are meant to pause, to rest, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. But modern life rarely allows that. Responsibilities don't stop. Expectations don't disappear. So people keep going until they are no longer really living, just enduring. Psychology also describes something called learned helplessness, where repeated exposure to uncontrollable situations makes a person stop trying altogether. Over time, effort begins to feel meaningless, and hope begins to feel heavier than acceptance. So they stop trying, not because they are weak, but because every attempt has felt like it led nowhere. And existing without hope, without expectation, is its own kind of exhaustion. So what actually helps? The first thing is understanding that this feeling is real. It is not laziness. It is not attention-seeking. It is a valid psychological state that deserves compassion, not judgment. Professional support can help, especially approaches like existential therapy or acceptance and commitment therapy, which focus on rebuilding meaning rather than forcing positivity. In some cases, biological support matters too. But beyond that, what people often need most is permission. Permission to not be okay. Permission to rest without guilt. Permission to exist at a lower capacity without being seen as broken. They need people who can sit with them in the silence without trying to fix everything. People who can say they see the exhaustion and truly mean it. And sometimes, healing doesn't start with big goals or dramatic changes. It starts with something smaller, a moment of warmth, a glass of water, a quiet space, a little sunlight. Not because these things solve everything, but because they make the present moment feel slightly more bearable. And here is something important to remember. This feeling, no matter how heavy it is right now, is not permanent. The mind can shift, meaning can return. Life can feel lighter again, not through force, but through time, support, and small moments of relief. You are not broken for feeling this way. You are someone who has been carrying too much for too long. Yes, life requires effort, but it is not meant to feel like something you have to survive every single day. You deserve real rest. You deserve to exist without constantly pushing yourself to keep going. And if you are watching this, there is a chance that someone around you feels this way too, even if they seem fine. So be gentle. Ask real questions. Listen without trying to fix everything. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can offer is simply allowing someone to rest. Because maybe, with enough rest, enough understanding, and enough quiet moments, the weight becomes just a little lighter. Not all at once, not forever, but enough. Enough to breathe again. Enough to try one more day. Not because you have to, but maybe one day because you want to. Until then, it is okay to be tired. It is okay to just survive. It is okay if existing at your minimum is all you can do right now. Because even like this, you are still enough. And maybe one day, slowly, gently, you will remember what it feels like not just to exist, but to truly live. Until then, be kind to yourself. Rest when you can. Move at your own pace. The world can wait. Take a breath. That is enough.